Hey everybody, we got ourselves a video that we're going to be talking about early game map rotations on carries. And this is a great way to think about whether or not you leave your lane in the early game. So I'm going to rehash some main points that go into this decision. First and foremost, we're going to mention the dead lane concept, where the dead lane concept means that any play you make on your own safe lane is to relieve pressure, and any play made in the off lane is to create pressure. So every game you want to have as close to a healthy balance of the two things as possible. So around 8 minutes is usually when a lot of carries decide that they're going to leave the lane or not. And so whether or not your carry is survivable or not will determine whether or not they want to be in their own safe lane, serving as a way to relieve pressure. Also, if your carry is a hero that pressures towers or is able to at least threaten to kill people who are underneath the top tower, then they're a hero that can look to rotate top.
Banana slam jam.
So in this example, we have a great hero to use because Wraith King can do both of these things. So some heroes do one or the other. A hero like Troll Warlord is usually not very survivable if he gets 3-man ganked, but he's great at taking towers. On the other hand, Wraith King can do both of these things. While some heroes have a standard playstyle, Wraith King is one of the few that can choose between the two from game to game. So when we're talking about Wraith King, we have to then decide to mold around our teammates. So if you were to ask yourself if you wanted to create pressure top or relieve pressure bottom, you have to decide who on your team does any of those things. So what does my offlaner, Axe, want to do in the game? Is Axe the type of offlaner that's going to TP to his own safe lane and defend the tower? And a lot of heroes that fit that description from the offlane are ones that have really good wave clear or can like nuke the wave from really far away. So examples would be like Viper, Veno, Underlord, Sand King. These are just some examples of offlaners that would be good at defending their tower. Axe is not one of these heroes. He has to put himself point blank range inside of the creep wave in order to clear it, which makes him not so good at defending his own tower. Axe also loves to play behind the opponent tower, making it so that he can play max efficiency with a Vanguard. He's going to be cutting creep waves and playing the opponent's side of the map, kind of running at the carry. So this is the way Axe wants to play. And there's really no exception to that. So whenever you're in a game where you're a hero that can play multiple different ways, you need to cater yourself to the heroes that are on your team. So if I had a carry that was less survivable and an offlaner that was more survivable, I would much more likely swap lanes with them around the 8-minute mark. So this is super important. This is a super important thing to recognize. And a lot of that has to do with if you're the one that's going to stay in lane, bottom, Dire, it would be top lane, you have to first decide if you're even capable of doing that. Sometimes, if nobody's strong enough to defend this tower, you kind of just have to give it up, similar to what they're doing here, where none of their heroes feel safe against these 3 heroes. But if you're in a game where you're survivable enough to occupy your own safe lane like this, it's amazingly impactful if you can, because it effectively keeps your tower alive for a really long time. More towers means more space to farm, which means that team will inevitably gain a net worth advantage over time. So notice that when I talk about the laning phase, if you're going to stay here longer, that means you need to keep building laning items. That means you need to have your items match with the fact that you plan to stay here. We're not going Midas. We're not rushing Radiance with no other items. We have bought as many items as we think it takes to be survivable in our own lane. So it allows us to be here, which means overall farm of the entire team is going to go up, and the enemy's only tower pressure is the Pugna, who's a support. So he's only got level 2 Nether Blast, and he doesn't have like a lot of mana from like a bottle or mana boots that a mid Pugna would have. So the pressure on this tower from the opponent is thwartable. You know, you can ward it off a little bit. So I've recognized that my hero is survivable against the main way they can kill me, which is Doom, and they also have minimal pressure that I am capable of slowing down. So if you watch this, I'm going to stay bottom this entire time. You know, we're just going to see, while my entire team's farming, 3 heroes taking top tower, Tango's farming around the mid lane, and notice how the opponent's like trying to kill me, but they don't want to go on this level 6 Wraith King. I know I skipped my point and my ult, but doesn't matter, they don't know that. And so even though this is going to slow down my farm a bit, look at the enemy team. They just don't even know what to do. They got 4 heroes here. I don't even know this. I don't have a ward or anything. But I assume they want to get this tower, because that's the one we always talk about getting first. And we're just playing our own side of the map consistently. So we're just going to fast forward and show you my biggest mistake of this game. So a fight's going to break out mid, and I'm going to TP, which is great. You should be completely willing as a carry who has some sort of teamfight impact, like a stun, in Wraith King's case, an ultimate, and be willing to show up to this fight and contribute to a gank. So we do that, and now we're going to pause. So at this point in the game, I have to reassess the same question I asked myself at 8 minutes in. It's the same decision. Am I going to be the one playing for efficiency and safety in the top half of the map, or am I going to be the one playing for relieving pressure in the bottom half of the map? And nothing's changed. If I had lost my ultimate, that means I would no longer have the characteristics that are required for me to return safely to the bottom lane, as you saw there. If the opponent knows that I don't have my ult, they'll just kill me. They'll just come down there, they'll doom me, and they'll kill me. But since I have my ultimate, they don't want to do that. And my biggest mistake is I had my post, I was choosing the right lane to be in, I TP to this fight, and I elect to not go back to my post. So we're going to put a little bit of pressure on the mid lane, which is great. This is perfectly fine. We're going to make the opponent come back here. And this is the moment that since I still have my ult, I am supposed to make my way back bottom. So I'm low, and I'm a hero that can sustain from creeps. So I should farm my way back there. But because I am the best one to do the job that we've allocated to this bottom lane, which is the same every single game, I should go from here to bottom lane. So not only is it important that you start there, but if you ever go to a fight, we've talked about in so many coaching sessions that you should have a home on the map, a place that your hero is meant to play, meaning that anytime you're drawn away from that place, you should make your way back to it as soon as possible. So I contributed to a fight, put a little bit of pressure on a tower, and now my biggest mistake is not returning to my post. So we're going to fast forward real quick, see that I try to go for some Ancients. It looks really inefficient because I don't have Skeletons. But the biggest emphasis is look at what happens bottom. None of my teammates want to go there. They could go here, but it's not correct. So like theoretically as a teammate, you could go here, especially if you were a support and you wanted to soak the farm. But this is what happens when one player on the team is not doing their job properly. So my TP is still on cooldown for 10 seconds. I want to be bottom. I know that once it comes up, I'm going to TP bottom, but look at how much goes on in the bottom tower, which was 3/4 HP, is almost going to die to creeps purely because I walked from here to here rather than from here back to bottom, just so I could make it back in time. And we're almost going to lose bottom tower, and I'll be honest, if the opponent had pressured the lane a little bit better, meaning this Doom had stayed in lane and tried to kill the tower, we probably would have lost this tower. But notice how much damage it took just for free, and better players would have honestly made sure this went down. And it's just super awkward now. And even though I'm able to sit here just like I was before, the tower is almost completely dead and is going to go down in the near future. So it's really important that I made a video on carry about envisioning the stage of the game. And I often I use the 8 to 12 minute mark exactly. And it is no coincidence that that's the exact window we've had in this game. Where in that 8 to 12 minute mark is where people start to decide where they want to play. You're no longer just laning in your own lane. Mid laners sometimes out of mid, safe laners sometimes out of the safe lane, off laners out of the off lane. And if you play this part of the game correctly, usually you'll end up with some sort of tower advantage and also a net worth advantage. So it's really big deal that I started here and played it correctly for 2 minutes, but then it's a huge blunder to not run right back. So I hope you guys learned something a little bit about how to visualize why certain carry heroes go certain places. And the biggest question you can ask yourself is my hero capable of applying pressure, which means you go top, or is my hero capable of survivably defending my own safe lane tower? If you're capable of both, then you should look and see what your teammates are capable of, in this case, my axe. Thanks for watching, guys. Please like, subscribe, comment, all that kind of stuff that I'm supposed to tell you. If you enjoyed this video especially, make sure you do that. Bye.